Mr. Wiseman.
Here.
Ms. Forrest.
Here.
Ms. Cotter.
Here.
I'm here. Ms. Dodd.
Ms. Dodd will not be present this evening.
And Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Present and accounted for.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Joe Salvia to come up, and he's got a young man assisting him as well. I'm going to invite him to the podium, and then he'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Noah. Oh, thank you, Noah, for being with us this evening. Please rise. If you can face Noah.
Together, let's recite the Pledge of Allegiance to our country in a loud voice. Together. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remember, there's no comma. It's one nation under God.
One nation under God. Well, we're going to do, can you stay right there, Mr. Salvia? And then we're going to take approval of the agenda, and then we're going to get right into veteran recognitions. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented. I'll support that.
Moved by Ms. Forrest, supported by Ms. Cotter. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it. Agenda is approved as presented. No items from the board president at this time. We will now move into veteran recognitions. Sylvia, do you want to say a few comments, and then we're going to roll a tape, and then we're going to have our traditional reading of the veterans from Huron Valley.
What does a few minutes mean? Thank you for allowing me the privilege to be here again today. Every year when I get to do this, or I'm told to do this, or asked to do this, my voice just fades away. I think they planned that because I could talk a lot. So I want a special round of applause for my assistant today, Noah. I said if the flag gets too heavy, he can put it over on the table, but he's going to wait for me to we'll walk out together. Every year it's important to recognize the men and women who serve our country, the ones who are still alive with us. And as Noah has the flag that represents the burial flag, we want to make sure we don't forget the ones who are no longer with us. So Noah's doing a good job to help us remember them. This year for the Huron Valley school systems, we have a total of 22 veteran recognition ceremonies in this community. I believe, how many do I have on that list? 8?
Yes. You want me to read them? 8
of those events are with the local schools. And Sean, would you please read those names?
Yes. On Wednesday, the 9th, at the VFW will arrive at Spring Mills location. And then on Thursday, there's a couple of events on Thursday. We have Highland Elementary. Doug Burke has an event. And then Heritage Elementary. Jenna Stevens, that's on the 10th as well, on Thursday at 9 o'clock. And then at 12 noon, Milford High School, Dave Gilbert. And then on Friday, the 11th, which is the actual Veterans Day, 8:30 to 9:30, Kurtz Elementary in Kurt's main office. Monday, the 14th, Muir Middle School at 8:20 to 9:10. Also on Monday, the 14th, 11:45 to 1300, Oak Valley Middle School, Kelly Haas. On Tuesday, the 15th, 9:30 to 10:30, White Lake Middle. And then on the 15th, next Tuesday as well, from 11 o'clock to 12:15, Lakeland High School. Brian Howe puts a ceremony on at that point in time. And Joe, thank you for the effort. This has been building and building over the last decade and a half, 2 decades through your leadership, and appreciate your passion behind this.
I believe Brian Howe and I got together a long time ago, and he wanted to start something. So we got together and worked on it. And my mission was to make sure the schools were able to facilitate a veterans recognition on their own. And each of these individuals, the folks this year, have done a tremendous job, and I'd like you to make sure you recognize them directly. They go out of their way to instruct the students about patriotism, about service to country. They have walls of honor now in each school. They do a great job in letting the young people know. And I think the young people are now growing up understanding what patriotism and service to country is. One motto is always the few that serve the many. What is that percentage, Sean? Probably 3%?
2.5%, 3%. Yeah.
2% of our population goes into the military. So it's always important to honor them and recognize them when you see them. We have other events going on in the community at senior facilities, nursing homes, wherever there may be veterans that can't get out, we try to get to them and remember them. Our community was also recognized yesterday. It was my 17th year of a co-founder of the Detroit Veterans Day Parade. So our color guard every year has led that parade. Not too many people watching, but we have more in Milford, I think, for Memorial Day. But we lead that parade, and it's an honor for our community to know that. So I think there's not much more I can say. You want to go ahead with your?
Well, I'm going to say a few things just in regards to Mr. Sylvia, in regards to your leadership on this, and just inspiring the others in the community to take charge of this. And it's important. This is an important day for us. And you've always been out in the front leading this and inspiring others to take the leadership and take the reins. And, you know, when you do it yourself, it's hard because if all of a sudden you're not here, it's not going anywhere. When you inspire others, then you really leave a legacy. And that's what you're leaving in this Huron Valley School District. And we really appreciate your leadership around this program. I mentioned last year, I said, when each one of us is born, you know, there are two gifts. You know, one is the actual gift of being born. The other gift, and the most important one, is when you find what your purpose in life is. And sometimes you might find that purpose in life early on. Sometimes it might be later in life. And I know, Joe, you mentioned this is your purpose, and
this is the
it
mission.
Shows.
Thank you, Sean. And the legacy for this to continue is now entrusted to the school board and all the educators that have gotten the message. They know what to do, and they will continue that good job. So I think that kind of finishes my remarks.
Yes, thank you. We're going to roll this clip, and then right after the clip, we're going to go into the reading.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn, when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Right. In recognition of our veterans in the Huron Valley, it has been
Sean,
Go ahead.
the opening scenes were Marines. The Marine birthday is November the 10th. That's coming up, and it was a very, very profound video, Sean. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. So it has been our tradition to recognize Huron Valley School employees as well as family members of staff in the community. And so with that, I will begin this evening. Walter Zambelli, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Sean Carlson. Robert Bruce Carlson, U.S. Air Force, my father. Roy Graves, U.S. Army, World War II, my uncle. Ed Graves, U.S. Army, World War II, European conflict. Robert Carlson, U.S. Army, prisoner of war, was also one of my great uncles. Leonard Forrest, U.S. Army, father of Denise Forrest. Ronald Robillard, U.S. Navy, brother-in-law of Denise Forrest. Marvin Forrest, U.S. Army, uncle of Denise Forrest. David Jones, U.S. Army, father of Denise Pastana. Lieutenant Murray Adrian Cotter, World War II, U.S. Army Air Corps, father of Lindsay Cotter. Wilford Wiseman, U.S. Marine Corps, U.S. Navy, father of Tom Weisman. Albert Petroni, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Tom Weisman. Also, James W. Fields, Army, father of Amy Grzymkowski. James W. Fields Jr., Army, brother of Amy Grzymkowski. Central Office, Brad Roberts, U.S. Army, HVS Supervisor of Operations. Jerry Parrott Sr., U.S. Air Force, father of Jerry Parrott. Joseph Stephen Toth, U.S. Army, father of Jennifer Bjorkman. James A. Lowe, U.S. Army, husband of Lori Lowe. James A. Lowe Sr., U.S. Army, father-in-law of Lori Lowe. Michael Lowe, U.S. Army, brother-in-law of Lori Lowe. Eric Russell, U.S. Coast Guard, brother-in-law of Lori Lowe. Anthony Cizo, U.S. Marine, father-in-law of Colleen Armstrong. Robert Hill, U.S. Army, father of Mike Hill. Donald L. Comas, U.S. Army, father of Sheila Witowski. Tony Polarito, U.S. Army, father of Vicky Popoli. Phil Morden, U.S. Navy, son-in-law of Vicky Popoli. Jessica Dufresne, U.S. Air Force, daughter of Sandy Maggie. Richard Palmer, Navy, Vietnam, father of Sandy Maggie. Guy Palmer, Army, World War II, grandfather of Sandy Maggie. Joseph Gonzalez, U.S. Army, father of Don Sam Filippo. Am I saying that right? Mark Gonzalez, U.S. Marines, brother of Don Sam Filippo. Matt Supleza, U.S. Marines, nephew of Joe Supleza. Lawrence Hegwood, U.S. Army, father of Bob Rothler. Charles Haygood, U.S. Army, grandfather of Bob Rothler. Charles Schofield, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Kim Willis. Can you take Johnson?
Johnson Elementary School. Bill Atchison, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Josh Janak. Daniel Steinbach, U.S. Army, father of Kim Freiberg. Harry Fulkerson, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Kim Freiberg. Darrell Kettle, U.S. Army, husband of Doreen Kettle. Cloyd Fagley, U.S. Army Air Force, father of Doreen Kettle. David Mackey, U.S. Navy, father of Ryan Mackey. Frederick Brown III, U.S. Army, father of Chris Brown. Frederick Brown Jr., U.S. Army, grandfather of Chris Brown. Robert Frazier, U.S. Navy, father of Mark Frazier. Alan Witherspoon, U.S. Army, father of Kim Rabideau. Milton Thiel, U.S. Army, grandfather of Kelly Thiel. Richard Croston, U.S. Army, father of John Croston. Sam Croston, U.S. Navy, grandfather of John Croston.
Board of Education, Sean Carlson, U.S. Air Force, Huron Valley Schools Board of Education President. Ted Uppen, U.S. Navy, father of John Uppen. Jim Uppen, U.S. Navy, brother of John Uppen. John Bicknell, U.S. Air Force, husband of Angie Bicknell. Jeffrey Bohm, U.S. Navy, husband of Sonia Bohm. Highland Elementary, Lewis Collins, U.S. Marines, active duty, brother of Tricia Campbell. Vincent L. Lazat, U.S. Air Force, father of Beth Dietrich. William B. Dietrich, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Beth Dietrich. Robert Granziak, U.S. Army, father of Jamie Page. Nathan Bradley, U.S. Navy, active duty, son of Tracy Bradley. Erling Carlson, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Carrie Sanderson. Thomas R. Roberts, U.S. National Guard, grandfather of Carrie Sanderson. Thomas H. Roberts, Civil War, great-great-grandfather of Carrie Sanderson. William F. Sanderson, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Carrie Sanderson. Bill Colgrove, U.S. Marine Corps, father-in-law of Kimberly Colgrove. Lakeland High School, Derek Rump, U.S. Navy ELA teacher. Charles G. Knutson, U.S. Army, grandfather of Bridget Knutson. Carl E. Knutson, U.S. Army, uncle of Bridget Knutson. Nathaniel Papworth, U.S. Air Force, active duty, nephew of Lori Legmeyer. Tim Drosy, U.S. Navy, brother of Lori Legmeyer. Michael Ellis, U.S. Air Force, father-in-law of Scott Rolando. Daryl Holly, U.S. Navy, cousin of Scott Rolando. Peter Rolando, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Scott Rolando. Arthur Del Torre, U.S. Army, great-grandfather of Scott Rolando. Michael Cloyan, U.S. Army, uncle of Wendy Keekly. Everett Held, U.S. Marines, father of Libby Held. Nick Young, U.S. Navy, brother-in-law to Libby Held. Jeff Held, U.S. Army, brother of Libby Held. Aaron Beal, U.S. Army, active duty, nephew of Libby Held. Jonathan Vu, U.S. Army, partner to Libby Held. David Hike, U.S. Marines, father to Michelle Leatham. Frederick Kasparak, U.S. Army, father of Thomas Kasparak. Mark Woods, U.S. Army, Vietnam, stepdad to Timothea Johnson. Kenneth Lawyer Sr., World War II Navy, grandfather to Timothea Johnson. Roger A. White, U.S. Army, uncle to Tammy Jeanette. George Butch White, U.S. Army, uncle to Tammy Jeanette. George White, U.S. Army, grandfather of Tammy Jeanette. Donald V. Jeanette, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Tammy Jeanette. Donald V. Jeanette, U.S. Marines, brother-in-law of Tammy Jeanette. James Heapy, U.S. Navy, brother of Meredith Johnson. Kimberly Heapy, U.S. Navy, sister-in-law of Meredith Johnson. Edward Heapy, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Meredith Johnson. Ralph Conflitti, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Meredith Johnson. Thomas Johnson, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Meredith Johnson. David P. Miller, U.S. Marines, father of Karen Miller. Elijah Seacrest, West Point Maps, grandfather of Regina Stevenson. Scott Keith, U.S. Navy, brother of Colleen Durham. James Menard, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Colleen Durham. And Edward Lee Durham, U.S. Marines, father-in-law of Colleen Durham.
Country Oaks Elementary. Arthur Wojciech, U.S. Army, uncle of Nancy Williard. Marvin W. Spring, U.S. Army, father of Mitch Spring. Robert A. Spring, U.S. Army, uncle of Mitch Spring. Joe Markey, U.S. Army, active duty, nephew of Doug Markey. John Wittenberg, Air National Guard, active duty, son of Linda Lajovic. Oak Valley Middle School. George Cronin, U.S. Marine Corps, father of Sean Durso. Frank Benedict, U.S. Navy, father of Heather Chowick. Brett Munster, U.S. Marine Corps, cousin of Sarah Tapley. Mark Smith, U.S. Air Force, brother of Lori Crowley. John Hathaway, U.S. Army, father of Kathy Adrianson. Philip Spencer Kilgore, father of Dolores McKinney. Robert Day, U.S. Navy, husband of Jennifer Day. Robert Steely Terrell, Jr., U.S. Marine Corps, father of Patricia Terrell. Robert Steely Terrell, Sr., U.S. Navy, grandfather of Patricia Terrell. White Lake Middle School. Raymond Fabelli, U.S. Navy, active duty, nephew of Janet Buchanan. Joseph Karosky, U.S. Army, grandfather of Nick Peruski. Sylvester Peruski, U.S. Army, grandfather of Nick Peruski. Donald R. McKinley, U.S. Army, father of Carly Barber. Benjamin Peplinski, U.S. Marines, grandfather of Jacqueline Probst. Marjorie Pollard O'Brien, U.S. Navy, mother of Janet Buchanan. John F. Lintole III, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Jennifer Hollowell. Samuel Ingolia, U.S. Army, grandfather of Jennifer Hollowell. Frederick Navarre, U.S. Army, grandfather of Terry Von Veld. Thomas Navarre, U.S. Army, uncle of Terry Von Veld. Philip Crockett, Marines in Vietnam, father of Eric Crockett. Robert Maggard, Army in Vietnam, father-in-law of Eric Crockett. Hank Condon, U.S. Army, World War II, grandfather of Katie Marzik. Kenneth Marzik, U.S. Navy, father-in-law of Katie Marzik. Joshua Fee, Air Force, son of Kathy Fee. John Owen James, U.S. Army, grandfather of Laura Johns. Bernard Lloyd Ellinger, U.S. Army, grandfather of Laura Johns. Roger Lloyd Ellinger, U.S. Army, father of Laura Johns. Terry Lee Ellinger, U.S. Coast Guard, uncle of Laura Johns. James Lloyd Ellinger, U.S. Navy, brother of Laura Johns. Raymond Howard Johns, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Laura Johns. And Johnny Lindo, U.S. Army, cousin of Laura Johns.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize the veterans from Heritage Elementary. David Hall, U.S. Marine Corps. He's a Milford graduate and the husband of Tammy Hall. Brian Ratzloff, U.S. Air Force. He's the father of Chrissy Gustafson. Those from Harbor High School, I'd like to recognize Raymond Denny, U.S. Marines. He's currently an employee here in Huron Valley. Robert Gerard, U.S. Army, father of Karen Gerard and Meg Macaulay. Mary Ellen Gerard, U.S. Air Force, mother of Karen Gerard and Meg Macaulay. Kenneth E. Kowalski, U.S. Air Force, brother-in-law to Karen Gerard and Meg Macaulay. Henry B. Eggman, U.S. Army, Purple Heart at Pearl Harbor, uncle of Karen Gerard and Megan and Macaulay. Lance Corporal Scott Armstrong, U.S. Marine Corps, currently active duty, son of Scott Armstrong. William Armstrong, U.S. Army, father of Scott Armstrong. Richard Smith, U.S. Navy, father of Kelly Vela. Adam Smith, U.S. Navy, brother of Kelly Vela. Recognizing those veterans from transportation, Jamie Moosh, U.S. Army, also a Huron Valley employee. Jeffrey Watton, U.S. Air Force, Huron Valley employee. George Roberts Sr., U.S. Army, father of Jamie Mush. John Shimitz, U.S. Army, father of Jackie Powell. Caleb Haleman, U.S. Air Force, son-in-law to Christy Van. Simon Pitzer, U.S. Army, he's the father of Mary Phipps. David Pilsner, U.S. Army, brother to Mary Phipps. James C. Howe, U.S. Army, father of Janice Walker. Matthew Walker, U.S. Army, husband of Janice Walker. Also from transportation, Kurt Hutchinson, U.S. Army. He's the brother-in-law of Janice Walker. Bradley Craig, U.S. Navy, nephew to Janice Walker. James Gillette, U.S. Army, fiance of daughter of Janice Walker. And William Campbell, U.S. Army, husband of Natalie Campbell. James Campbell, U.S. Marine Corps, father-in-law to Natalie Campbell. Craig Houck, U.S. Navy, brother of Natalie Campbell. Robert Houck, U.S. Air Force, father to Natalie Campbell. Janie Houck, U.S. Navy, sister-in-law to Natalie Campbell. Michael Thomas, U.S. Army, father of Tisha Weber. Robert Manning, U.S. Army, stepfather to Tisha Weber. Edward Weber, Coast Guard, father-in-law to Tish Weber. Leon Frederick LaPointe, U.S. Air Force, father of Wendy Coda. George K. Cronin, U.S. Navy, brother of Connie Cirelli. Michael Fontana, U.S. Air Force, nephew to Marie Maytock. Robert C. Moran, he's U.S. Navy and the father of Sue Crockett. Gary S. Moran, U.S. Army, uncle of Sue Crockett. Paul E. Moran, U.S. Army, uncle of Sue Crockett. Michael P. Moran, U.S. Army, brother of Sue Crockett. William Spencer, U.S. Army, he's the son-in-law of Amy Curtis. Robert Keller, U.S. Army, father of Amy Curtis. Michelle King, U.S. Air Force, niece of Candy Poshiha. Raymond King, U.S. Air Force, nephew of Candy Poshiha. Kevin Tunison, U.S. Marines, brother to Corinne Springer. John Shimitz, U.S. Army, father of Jackie Shimitz.
I'd now like to recognize the veterans out of Kurtz Elementary, our HVS employee Kim Papshuk, U.S. Marine Corps, Kurtz Media Tech. Also a HVS employee, Kevin Berger, U.S. Army. He's one of our custodians. Christopher Papchuk, U.S. Air Force, son of Kim Papchuk. Stanley Papchuk, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Kim Papchuk. Rudolph Bertunen, U.S. Army, father of Kathy Kramer. Cameron Nelson, Army National Guard, father of Jessica Stewart. Brian Gerwalds, U.S. Army Reserves active duty, husband of Kristen Gerwalds. International Academy West, Jeremy Parrott, U.S. Navy, brother of Ryan Parrott. Julia Hedgehold, U.S. Navy, sister-in-law of Ryan Parrott. Joseph Schad, U.S. Naval Construction Battalion, Seabees, grandfather of Ian Jones. Eugene Jones, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Ian Jones. James Dale Jones, U.S. Marine Corps, uncle of Ian Jones. Milford High School, HVS employee Robert Vosk, U.S. Navy, teacher, AP Biology, and NHS, National Honor Society. Pete Wheeler, also an HVS employee, U.S. Marine Corps, Milford High School Security. Brandy Battersher, U.S. Navy. James Rhodes, National Guard, brother of Brandy Battersher. Emily Mazur, Vietnam veteran, U.S. Army, father of Amanda Bala. Brian McKenna, U.S. Army, brother of Kevin McKenna. Ronald Mantella, U.S. Army, father of Marcy Rogers. Daniel Alaska, U.S. Air Force, son of Sandy Alaska. Bradley Alaska, U.S. Air Force, son of Sandy Alaska. Christopher Riley, U.S. Navy, husband of Paige Riley. Michael Brooks, U.S. Navy, father of Paige Riley. Anton Cross, U.S. Army, son of Margaret Baronet. Michael Naden, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Kristen Naden. Daniel Gross, U.S. Army, brother of Dennis Gross. Jerry Cleesby, U.S. Army, father of Elizabeth Carlson. Richard Carlson, U.S. Navy, father-in-law of Elizabeth Carlson. Matthew Groth, U.S. Army, son of Beverly Groth. Daniel Johnson, U.S. Army, brother-in-law of Kayleen Robbins. Kelvin Hensler, U.S. Air Force, father-in-law of Kayleen Robbins. James Henson, Sr., U.S. Navy, father of Colleen Darnell. James Hensing, Jr., U.S. Navy, brother of Colleen Darnell. Bobby Phillips, U.S. Marines, brother-in-law of Colleen Darnell. Mervyn Darnell, U.S. Air Force, father-in-law of Colleen Darnell. Roberta Cox Geisler, U.S. Air Force, mother of Kay Sommer. Emily Mazur, U.S. Army, father of Amanda Bala. Mark Hoy, U.S. Navy, husband of Maureen Hoy.
Okay, I'd like to recognize the veterans with families from Lakewood Elementary School. Maria Hayden, U.S. Army, custodian at Lakewood and Oxbow. Raymond Abamonte, U.S. Army, father of Jill Brower. Robin Corey Warobi, Marines, brother-in-law and nephew of Jill Brower. James Norad, U.S. Air Force, father of Deb Fuss. Michael Norad, U.S. Army, brother of Deb Fuss. Jake Fuss, Army National Guard, active duty, nephew of Deb Fuss. Earl Norad, U.S. Army, grandfather of Deb Fuss. Gregory DeMaio, Army National Guard, active duty, brother of Lisa Anderson. Michael Secord, U.S. Navy, brother of Kim Zalay. Joe Brewer, U.S. Army, Lakeland graduate, nephew of Patty Turner. Robert Harrington, U.S. Army, grandfather of Michelle Thompson. Leonard Rosenthal, U.S. Army, father of Beth Lesko. Brian Peace, U.S. Marine Corps, brother of Laura Buhner. Brendan Peace, U.S. Marine Corps Intelligence Specialist, nephew of Laura Buhner. Luther Nickerson, U.S. Army, grandfather of Danielle Eller. Anthony Saunders, U.S. Navy, father of Sherry Kress. Chet Sanders, U.S. Army, uncle of Sherry Kress. Ben Sinkowitz, U.S. Army, uncle of Sherry Kress. Ted Bannock, U.S. Army, cousin of Sherry Kress. And John Kress, father-in-law of Sherry Kress. Donald Groden, U.S. Army, grandfather of Lindsay Keeble. Francis Mechalek, U.S. Army, grandfather of Lindsay Keeble. Bradley Alaska, U.S. Air Force. Oh, sorry. I will turn the page. David Groden, U.S. Navy, uncle of Lindsay Keeble. George Williams, U.S. Navy on USS Tidewater, grandfather of Stephanie Williams. And here's Muir Middle School. Israel Saginaw, U.S. Army, grandfather of Mike Dvorin. Stephen Dvorin, U.S. Air Force, father of Mike Dvorin. Terry Tennant, U.S. Army, Korean War, father of Jamie Halleck. Walter Makiki, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Carrie Bradley. Stuart Proctor, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Carrie Bradley. Kyle Proctor, U.S. Navy, aunt of Carrie Bradley. Douglas Proctor, U.S. Navy, uncle of Carrie Bradley. John Colley Price III, U.S. Army, grandfather of Sherry Lozon. Jerry Blenman, U.S. Army, grandfather of father of Sherry Lozon. Jeremy Coder, U.S. Army, brother of Sherry Lozon. Frank J. Strick, U.S. Navy, grandfather of Susie Spilisi. Terrence M. Spilisi, U.S. Army, father of Susie Spilisi. Gary Sawyers, Army, Vietnam, father of Stephanie Barris. Brian Sawyers, U.S. Navy, brother of Stephanie Barris. And Alexander Sawyers, U.S. Air Force, nephew of Stephanie Barris.
I'd like to recognize the veterans from Oxbow Elementary. Nancy McDougall, U.S. Army. Mitchell Farnham, U.S. Navy, son of Carrie Farnham. Andrew Signal, U.S. Marine Corps, active duty, nephew of Anne-Marie Brinkman. Raymond Signal, U.S. Army, father of Anne-Marie Brinkman. Walter Brinkman, U.S. Navy, father-in-law of Anne-Marie Brinkman. Keith Brinkman, U.S. Air Force, brother-in-law of Anne-Marie Brinkman. Clarence Duke Cassidy, U.S. Army, father of Dana Abreu. Greg Cassidy, U.S. Army and U.S. Air Force Reserves, brother of Dana Abreu. James Rapp, U.S. Army, father of Emily Richards and uncle of Jennifer Pipkin. Ronald Zisner, U.S. Coast Guard, father of Beth McGinnis. Jeff Black, U.S. Army, father of Melissa Black McKellen. Dawn Siriano, U.S. Army, mother of Melissa Black McKellen. Victor Serrano, U.S. Army, stepfather of Melissa Black McKellen. John Kerr, U.S. Air Force, father of Jane K. Skolaski. Tim Dalton, U.S. Marine Corps, father-in-law of Philip Watella. Ronald Borey, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Danielle Borey. Andrew Nowicki, U.S. Army, World War II, grandfather of Danielle Borey. Raymond Burrell, U.S. Marines, grandfather of Danielle Burrell. Robert Greenleaf, U.S. Marine Corps, father-in-law of Justine Greenleaf. Daniel Allen, U.S. Army, brother of Nicole Spangler. Douglas Spangler, U.S. Marine Corps, father-in-law of Nicole Spangler. Earl Warden, U.S. Army, grandfather of Nicole Spangler. Patrick Allen, U.S. Navy, great-uncle of Nicole Spangler. Robert Fitzpatrick, U.S. Army, grandfather of Nicole Spangler. Ethan Perkins, U.S. Navy, husband of Catherine Perkins. Roxanne C. DeBose, Army National Guard, sister of Lisa DeFore. Jeffrey C. DeBose, Army National Guard, active duty, nephew of Lisa DeFore. Tyler C. DeBose, U.S. Army, nephew of Lisa DeFore. Kevin Ryan, U.S. Army, fiancé of Narissa Clark. Scott Stanley, U.S. Army, son of Ann Stanley. From Spring Mills Elementary, Tim Dockery, U.S. Navy. Amanda Boatwright, U.S. Military. Tim Bentley, U.S. Army, nephew of Sarah Bentley. Edward Sheldon, U.S. Marines, husband of Julie Sheldon. Paul Gilbert Sheldon, U.S. Marines, father-in-law of Julie Sheldon. Larry West, U.S. Army, father of Julie Sheldon. Gary West, U.S. Marines, uncle of Julie Sheldon. Kurt Sauvé, U.S. Army, nephew of Julie Sheldon. Kevin Foudy, U.S. Air Force, active duty, brother-in-law of Nicole Foudy. Edward Robinson, U.S. Marines, father of Nicole Fouty. George Robeson, U.S. Army, grandfather of Nicole Fouty. John Quinn, U.S. Air Force, father-in-law of Lori O'Neill. Steve Schluff, U.S. Army, brother-in-law of Lori O'Neill. David Arndt, U.S. Army, father-in-law of Kristen Arndt. Michael Pompidence, U.S. Army, husband of Rachel Pompidence. Thaddeus Matt, U.S. Army, grandfather of Rachel Pompidence. John McCormick, U.S. Army, grandfather of Rachel Pompidence. And David Brock, U.S. Air Force, father-in-law of Sean Bedos.
I want to thank each of the board members for recognizing those members. When this first started, our list might have been around 7 to 8 pages, and now it's grown to 17 pages. And really, I know it took quite a while for us to go through that, but this is very meaningful stuff. It's a pittance of time, really, in the grand scheme of things, to recognize these individuals that have taken the time to serve this country and protect the liberties. One very important liberty, which happens to be voting, which is taking place tomorrow as well. But the veterans, this is really just a pittance of the time and to recognize them. And it is been a proud tradition of this school board to do that. And I want to thank the staff that has come forward and provided those names for us. And we look forward to the list growing bigger and bigger every year. Mr. Selby, a last word.
Closing comments. Representing the Tom Oldesvig is in the hospital. He stepped down as the post commander of the VFW, and his son Sean is taking over. No time to reach Sean today. Also, as a past commander of the American Legion, I kind of represent that group also. And from all the veterans in our community, we thank you for this outpouring of recognition. Thousands of hours are going into serving our country from just the names that were read here. So, as Sean mentioned, it's a pittance of time that we spend a few minutes to honor them. Noah, please come forward. Where'd Noah go? Oh, I guess Noah is not coming forward. Noah represents the unbroken thread of future generations of our country. So we don't know where Noah's going to go with this service, but George Washington forward, we have an unbroken thread of service. Thank you. Noah, are you ready to retire the colors? You may be seated. They want to read that one more time just to make sure we didn't miss it.
All right, we'll go to school presentations.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening we have Ms. Greenleaf and we have Ms. Richards with us from Oxbow Elementary School. They have a presentation that they would like to share. So I would invite you to the podium. Thank you. I think you have to turn your microphone on, Justine.
Perfect. There we go. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Justine Greenleaf, and then this is Mrs. Richards and Glenn. And tonight you will be learning a little bit more about our PBIS program at Oxbow Elementary. So over the last few years, as many of you know, social emotional learning and positive behavior intervention and supports have become even more pivotal and important in school buildings. PBIS is an evidence-based, 3-tiered framework for supporting students' behavioral, academic, social, emotional, and mental health. PBIS helps to improve social emotional competence, academic success, and overall school culture and climate, something that we are working on at Oxbow. It is a collaborative way to create a positive, predictable, equitable, and safe learning environment where everyone can thrive. Due to the importance of SEL and PBIS over the last few years, Oxbow has been very fortunate to utilize our Title I funding and additional grant funding that has been provided to schools within Oakland County this school year to really build upon our program and supports within the building. This includes the addition of our school-wide PBIS coordinator, Mr. Greg Bristow, the addition of another full-time social worker, Mrs. Lauren Scanlon, and adding on another part-time PBIS paraprofessional, Mrs. Carrie Farnham, to work alongside Mrs. Broman, who is our full-time PBIS paraprofessional. The addition of these very dedicated, knowledgeable, and hardworking staff has truly allowed Oxbow's PBIS team to work with many students throughout a school day in various capacities. In addition to adding on an amazing PBIS team, Oxbow has been very fortunate to add on Glenn to our PBIS team. Glenn is a 1-year-old Lhasa Poo who has gained the love and admiration of many of our owls at Oxbow. Glenn belongs to Mrs. Richards and her family, and Mrs. Richards is our literacy coach or our elementary instructional specialist. However, Glenn has quickly become one of our team over the last year. He just joined us for best meetings all day today. So Mrs. Richards has collaborated with Mrs. Kelly Curtis, a teacher at Muir Middle School, who helped pave the way of introducing therapy dogs into our schools through Alliance of Therapy Dogs. PBIS is divided into 3 different tiers with the mindset that all students will receive what they need in order to be successful. At the Tier 1 level, Oxbow uses the Positivity Project. This is a school-wide understanding and program which allows our team, including both students and staff, to develop a shared and common language and vocabulary that focuses on empathy, respect, and kindness. Our teachers incorporate daily dialogue and mini lessons into their classrooms that teach students about character traits, including things such as bravery, self-control, integrity, teamwork, perseverance, and creativity, just to name a few. Students can shout out staff and peers when they see an owl that's exhibiting one of these character traits in our building. Our team utilizes P2 along with our school mantra of I hoot. At Oxbow, it is important to our team that we, along with our students, strive for I hoot each and every single day. I hoot means I show integrity. I help others. I own my behavior. I overcome obstacles, and I treat others in our school with respect. At the Tier 2 level, Oxbow uses the student risk screening scales to identify students that would benefit from small group instruction, working with our 2 social workers, Mrs. Litt and Mrs. Scanlon. These small groups focus on digging deeper into character traits, conflict resolution strategies, problem solving, and social skills. In addition, our PBIS team pushes into our junior kindergarten through 2nd grade classrooms to teach second step to students, focusing on yet another layer of conflict resolution, problem solving, and social skills. So we hope that you enjoy the video that was prepared for our listening audience this evening, displaying the wonderful PBIS program that we have been able to build at Oxbow over the last few years. This video was prepared by Mr. Ristow, our PBIS coordinator, and Mr. Renlin, our technology integrator, or guru, as we like to call him, along with our very own owls. Our owls are very happy to share what we are all about, and we hope that you will enjoy it. Thank you.
At Oxbow, we have many supports in place for our PBIS goals and initiatives. While everything may vary in its approach, they all share the vision of creating a safe and welcoming learning environment. Late last year, we introduced I Hoot to the students and kicked off the school year once again. I Hoot is an acronym that serves as an umbrella for all of our PBIS expectations and narrows everything down to 5 main characteristics we want all of our students to develop. Integrity, kindness, responsibility, resiliency, and respect.
This is our I Hoot. We see us every day at lunch. The I stands for I show integrity. The H stands for I help others, which is kindness. The first stands for I own my behavior, which is responsibility. The second is where I overcome obstacles, which shows resiliency. And the T stands for I treat others in respect. Hey, I'm Grayson in grade, and my page is great way to learn to teach kids how to be kind to others and be aware of their surroundings. And a great thing about P2 is it changes people's lives. Sometimes the P2 is something that helps. I learned something that helps other people know how to show difference like integrity, creativity, and open-mindedness.
I'm in 5th grade, and I want to say that P2 means a lot to me because if I'm having a hard day or something like that, P2 will help me with. I like how the video kind of takes away your stress, and also it teaches you how to be kind, and also what characters you have.
Hi, I'm Riley, and I'm in 2nd grade. The Positivity Project is like people helping others and a bunch of different things that you could do that is nice.
Hi, I'm Blake. I'm in 4th grade. The Positivity Project is tries to
The characters kind of explain, like let's say creativity. It explains if you're artistic or love to explore different things like curiosity, then maybe those are two great characters for you.
And what I love about the Positivity Project is that it makes me help others, and everything about it is kind, and it makes me feel good.
Something cool about P2 is that everyone has different characteristics. There's no person that has the same characteristics as one another, which I find very cool to. You can go up to someone and learn character strengths and see how you two are alike or different.
What I like most about the Positivity Project is that when I watch the videos, it makes me learn about the character traits.
One of my favorites about P2 is that, or a Positivity Project is that you always, there's not really a wrong answer. At school, use it, because it can make a giant baby. Well, like one giant face.
Hi, I'm St. Worth. He's our therapy dog, and he helps us out when times are tough. When we're stressed, he can come up and help us.
Glenn was brought to our last Glenn is a dog that helps people like take away their stress and makes it so they no longer have like stress and they can just pet him.
I find Glenn a great opportunity for kids if they're had a bad day or they're feeling stressed or scared to do something. You can ask Richard if you can have some time with Glenn.
He's important because he lets kids know that he's there to help out for kids. And kids really like that they know that Glenn will help them at any time, anywhere, any place. He's cute and fluffy, and he wore a lobster costume on Halloween at school.
Thank you for having us here this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? I was just going to say, we would love to have that dog here. There's some decisions that we make, and it gets real stressful around here. So, thank you. Excellent job. Yes, permission granted. Thank you. All right. We will now move on to Superintendent Communications.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to, I wish Mr. Salvia was still here. Just special thank you to Joe. He's a phenomenal human being. Just gives and gives and gives to his community. Truly, I think espouses the values of a person, someone of service. Joe was instrumental in helping us pass the last 2019 bond initiative, which I think you saw some of the beautiful additions at Oxbow that was in our first round of additions. So just really grateful for Mr. Salvia and for all of our veterans and for the service that they have provided to our nation. I wanted to also thank Ms. Greenleaf and Ms. Richards for being here this evening. You guys did an outstanding job representing Oxbow Elementary, and the video was wonderful. Glenn is a true value in addition to obviously to the Oxbow community. So thank you for being here, and Noah, thank you, sir, young gentleman, for all of your contributions this evening as well. Thank you. So I have the pleasure this evening of introducing the newest member to our Huron Valley administrative team, and that is Sarah Fraza. And Sarah is here. Sarah, if you want to wave to everybody. Welcome, Sarah. Sarah, actually, today was Sarah's first day as the assistant principal of Oak Valley Middle School, and Mr. Urso is smiling because she's really happy to have an assistant principal at Oak Valley Middle School. Just want to introduce Sarah to the Board of Education and the community this evening. Sarah is coming to us from Mississippi, where she served as they call their administrative team a little bit, they have a little bit of a different twist. They called their, Sarah's role was house principal at Starkville High School. She had responsibilities for running day-to-day operations, including educator evaluations. Mississippi, from what I learned, is a very different education system. They actually don't require teachers to have what we would consider to be teacher certifications. And so it's quite a juggling act to really make things operate. It's a very, very different environment. She is a former special education general ed and CTE teacher in the Troy School District prior to serving in Mississippi as an administrator. She has her bachelor's degree in science from Central Michigan University. She has a master's in the principalship from Saginaw Valley University. She has an educational specialist degree with a concentration in special education from the Arkansas State University. And as if that's not enough, she's working towards her doctorate degree in educational leadership. So it's my pleasure to introduce Sarah and welcome her to the Huron Valley family. And Sarah, I'd like to invite you to the podium just to make a few remarks this evening.
Well, I don't want to take up too much time, but I just want to thank the board, Dr. Salah, the selection committee. It was a warm welcome from day one when I started this process, and I'm so happy that Huron Valley has brought me back to Michigan, that you guys have been patient with my move, and I'm really looking forward to working with the kiddos, with the community, and just exploring this new opportunity. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome. And she wasted no time enrolling her child at Country Oaks Elementary School. So welcome to the family, Sarah. We're so happy to have you. You're going to love it. This is a wonderful place with great people who care about the schools, who care about the community. And I know you're going to enjoy your time here. So welcome. Mr. President, that concludes my remarks this evening. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Salah. We'll now move to student leadership. Do we have student leadership this evening? Yes, we do.
Actually,
Come on
we do.
up.
Maya Azado
Yes,
from the
Maya.
International Academy. Welcome, Maya.
Yeah, one of my fellow moderators.
Thank you. I ran here from a dance performance tonight, so I apologize. I'm feeling like a bit of a mess, but nevertheless, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I'm so excited to share with you all some of the awesome things happening at my school, International Academy West. And today I will be highlighting some of the service projects that IA West students have been working on for their communities. So at IA West, we follow the International Baccalaureate curriculum. The IB mission is as follows. The International Baccalaureate aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. And some of the ways that the curriculum accomplishes these goals is through the personal project and the creativity, activity, and service requirement. So all 10th grade students at IA West will complete a personal project. The personal project is a chance for students to explore an area of personal interest in a way that somehow betters their community. Completing the personal project allows students to consolidate their knowledge and develop their skills such as research, collaboration, communication, critical and creative thinking, self-management, etc. And our 10th grade students at IA West are completing their personal project this first semester, and their work has truly been inspiring. For example, IA West sophomore Brooke Steck collaborated with Kona Ice Company and the Make-A-Wish Foundation to raise money for chronically ill children to help them accomplish their dreams. Brooke was able to bring a Kona Ice truck to school to sell outside during school lunches just a few weeks ago, and she ended up raising $2,241 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And this is just one example of the incredible projects that IA West sophomores are working on this semester. At the same time, 11th and 12th graders are making progress on an international baccalaureate requirement known as Creativity, Activity, and Service, or CAS for sure. So students complete 18 experiences that explore creativity, physical activity, or community service in some way. And then they reflect on these experiences in order to enhance their personal development and encourage learning outside of the classroom. And one of the CAS experiences that our upperclassmen complete is known as the CAS project, which is very similar in nature to the personal project, which I just explained. According to the International Baccalaureate Organization, the CAS project challenges students to show initiative, demonstrate perseverance, and develop skills such as collaboration, problem solving, and decision making. And our seniors at IA West are currently working on their CAS projects. One group of senior art students just held a school-wide competition to collect plastic bottles, and then they made artwork out of the recycled plastic bottles. Another group raised money to thank an impactful teacher by refurbishing their classroom. And my CAS project group actually just completed a website and social media platform that actually works to highlight local nonprofits and resources in the HVS area. And we're really excited about our project. So please check us out on Instagram at Community Here. Our website is linked on our page also. That's at Community Here on Instagram. But both the personal project and the CAS project are things that I point to when explaining why I love the International Academy so much. I have given just a few examples of some of the awesome projects that we have, but it's important to keep in mind that every single student at IA West will complete both a personal project and a CAS project within their high school career. There are 64 seniors in my graduating class, so that's 128 passion projects. I am so inspired by my classmates and the good that they are doing, and I'm so proud of them for the growth that they have undergone. I'm a strong proponent of education encompassing not just textbook knowledge, but also personal development and holistic learning. And International Academy West's work in this regard is truly admirable. Thank you.
Very well spoken. Thank you, Maya. Appreciate that. Excellent job. All right. Ms. Holmes, you're always having to follow the kids. I know.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank all of our Huron Valley veterans and our current armed services men and women. Each of you impact our country during your time of service and then impact our community once you return home to the Valley. I am so grateful we can recognize you this evening. And I guess it's all about the International Academy, because secondly, those of you who were here last board meeting had the opportunity to hear from some of our teachers from the International Academy. The IA is made up of a dozen districts across 3 campuses throughout Oakland County. There are 85 IA teachers, and Huron Valley is home to 20 of them. These 20 educators are our Huron Valley teachers. They are members of the Huron Valley Education Association and are employed under our Huron Valley contract. As many of you are aware, our educators in the International Academy have been working this fall without a letter of agreement that addresses the additional days and hours that they work beyond their traditional Huron Valley calendar. This has been challenging this fall for our educators as they supported each other throughout the extended bargaining process while fully engaging with their students and completing the extensive work that's required of an IA teacher. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming 85 of the IA teachers to Lakeland High School as they gather together today to learn about the details of their tentative agreement that was reached last week. Later this week, the IA teachers will vote on this tentative agreement. Throughout the past few months, our educators have learned the value of advocating for what they deserve and the power of solidarity as they leaned on each other throughout this process. I want to thank our association members in all of our other buildings who supported our IA staff this fall, and I am so proud of our IA teachers who gave so much of themselves and discovered the power of unity and advocacy. And finally, I want to give a huge shout out to our Huron Valley social workers. In addition to all of their vast responsibilities in their buildings, and our social work cohort spent the fall planning our Huron Valley Family Resource Night. This event last Thursday evening was well attended by many families and community members. 21 community agencies set up tables and were available to answer questions and share information about local resources that were available to adults and teens and children. In addition, donations of winter coats and boots were lined up ready to be tried on for families in need to take home that evening. This event was coordinated by our social workers in order to partner with our community resources and help meet our families, all of their needs. Knowing our families left that evening with warm coats and new boots, along with access to the supports they need, is evidence that that evening was a great success. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, board correspondence, Madam Secretary.
No correspondence this evening.
All right, treasurer's report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. A couple comments from the treasurer's seat. You had mentioned just a few moments ago how well Oxbow presented itself with new improvements that were made possible, by our community support in the 2019 bond issue. One of the items that received a lot of attention was our ability as a school district with the passage of the bond issue to provide clean, clear, and safe water supply to our Bogey Lake campus. This has been an issue that we faced for many years. And with that support, we've been able to work towards a resolution as it relates to this. And as a representative of the board, Mr. Van Gothen and I had the opportunity to meet with Aaron Potter, who is in charge of providing really clean water to our campus and to the rest of the White Lake community. And if you've traveled the Bogey Lake Road, you can see that there's a lot of inconvenience, but I say a positive inconvenience as the water line is being brought through up to the Bogey Lake campus. And also that partnership with the White Lake Township Governmental Agency has really not only brought that clean water to our campus as a reality, but it's also really provided an opportunity for us to reach out in partnership to provide really an opportunity for us to resolve some issues throughout the White Lake Township. And our opportunity, Mr. Van Gothen and I had, was to visit a few of our water plants within White Lake. And the partnership is not only bringing water to the White Lake campus, but to provide water through a partnership as it relates to the iron filtration plant that is being constructed in conjunction with that. And the passion that Mr. Potter brings to the table as it relates to bringing safe, clean, readily accessible water to our community at part of our Huron Valley School District is absolutely refreshing and in no pun intended, and also one that we are very fortunate. We know, looking at the news and reading the news, that many of our communities are facing some severe challenges as it relates to providing that clear and safe water. And it was time well spent representing the rest of the board as we visited that. And I will tell you that Mr. Potter and the rest of the White Lake community governmental agency really respects and embraces that partnership that we fostered with them to have a positive impact. In addition to that, and that is being funded through our 2019 bond issue. So once again, I want to say thank you to our community. In addition, at the Finance and Operations meeting, there was a short presentation that I'm going to have Jeffrey present to us as it relates to what has already been accomplished within this bond issue. And I think it's important from a treasurer's perspective for Jeffrey to have that opportunity to speak on our behalf as it relates to the projects that have been done and the projects that still need to be done as we move through this process. So with that, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mr. Wiseman. So yeah, it was a very interesting tour of the iron filtration plants. We did learn a lot about iron filtration and all that goes into that. And so we are better off as a result of the conversation. But Aaron and I have been working on that project for about 4.5 years now. So really proud of that work. And as a result of that, we'll see some water here on campus in the next 7 or 8 months, which will be really exciting. And I know that this campus is looking forward to that. And that was a big part of what we were doing with this bond. But what you have before you is a summary of all of our projects to date, starting with Bid Pack 1 that was actually issued 2.5 years ago, if you believe that. In the spring and summer of 2020, we had some chillers and boilers, and basically everything that the board has approved from that time period through all the way down to, trying to make this guy move a little bit. You want to bring it down a little bit, Rose, for us to so all the way down to Bid Pack 8, which is a part of new business this evening. And so we have done a lot of good things. We have upgraded all of our elementary facilities. We have provided technology and furniture to all of those elementary facilities. We have done major upgrades on some of our chillers and boilers. We significantly upgraded the track, turf, and tennis courts at both Milford and Lakeland High School. Like Tom mentioned, the water project is something that started this summer with White Lake's work and will continue into this coming summer with some on-campus work that you see being started. And so a lot of good things that are taking place with this bond. And again, it's really just a celebration of all the stuff that we've already been able to accomplish. And so we are fortunate that we had approximately $212 million to work with. That's $182 million in bond, $25 million approximately in sinking fund. And then as a result of the board being smart with the money prior to the bond, we had actually saved an additional $5 million in sinking fund for like an emergency fund, because we had gone so long without bond that the board had made a decision to kind of hold on to those dollars in case of emergency, really. So, we have the ability now. We're at, the $212 million. I'm showing you a slide here of approximately $85 million to date. Which would leave us about $127 million left. We're going to ask over the next couple months that the board consider the phase 1 of our high schools, but both phases will cost about $65 million, which will leave us with about $62 million remaining as we finish up work at the middle schools. We have some M&O equipment that we still need to buy, obviously making decisions on what we do with our administrative office. And then technology continues, as well as some bus purchases over the next 3 to 4 years. So this is a document that we're going to put on our website so the community members can see what it is that we've been up to, and again, what the board has ultimately approved to date. And then we will keep this document updated as the board continues to approve dollars for the bond as well as when we spend money related to the bond. So I think it's a quick snapshot of kind of where we're at, but also a celebration of all the good things that the board has done over the last 30 months.
Right. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Could you just explain the three numbers at the very bottom, the big numbers? And what does that
So
mean?
thank you, Tom. On the far left is actually all of the amounts that the board has awarded through board meetings for the work that's taken place in the district over the last, again, approximately 30 months. We have several of these projects, about a half a dozen, that aren't officially closed out, including technology, including actually Bid Pack 5, which is these 5 remaining schools. You can see the cost to date. And then the far right column is ultimately the savings from what we had board approved versus what we've actually costed out. The biggest dollar amount being, again, Bid Pack 5, which was updated as recently as last Wednesday. We're still seeing a little over $600,000 in savings versus what the board ultimately approved. Obviously, we have another couple weeks or even a couple months worth of final tuning on the 5 elementary schools, but you can see that, there's a little over, $1.8 million in what the district has ultimately saved in board approved amounts versus what we've actually expended so far. So happy to see that these projects are moving in the right direction, even with the challenges of a COVID inflation, if you will, and timing on, when we're able to get supplies. That our partners in this have done a really good job of, making sure that we're staying in line with what the board's ultimately approved.
Thank you very much. And that's the end of the treasurer's report, Mr.
All
President.
right. Thank you, Mr. Weisman, for that report. Without objection from the board members, I would like to just receive and file the committee reports from the chairs this evening, and that way we will post those in the minutes, and that way we can proceed on with the agenda if there's no objection. Hearing none, we will consider those reports received and filed, and we will post those reports for the community to see. We'll now move to public comment. Lori, do we have any public comments? No public comments. So public comment is closed. I will now move to the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes, Exhibit A1. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes, A1.
Ms. Forrest makes a motion. Ms. Cotter seconds it.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, ayes have it. Consent agenda is approved, which is basically the approval of the previous meeting's minutes. Unfinished business items in this section. Okay. Approval of Board Policy 2000 series. Exhibit B. Dr. Salam.
Thank you, Mr. President. So you have for you this evening, this is a first reading for the 2000 series. The Teaching, Learning, and Technology Committee has spent an incredible amount of time reviewing the 2000 series. You'll see a list of dates of meetings where discussions have taken place at reviewing and reflecting upon and making tweaks or modifications to the 2000 series on May 20th, June 1st, June 17th, July 27th, August 26th, September 9th, September 23rd, and October 11th. There was review and discussion at board committees. There have been several board communications as well through board notes. And this evening we have for first read, and we will ask that if there are any questions for the board, if you could direct those questions to Mr. Tavernier, and he will respond to you and provide any responses and or tweaks or modifications to the 2000 series. Oh, is that? I'm sorry. That's unfinished.
That's been presented to us.
My apologies. Yep. October 17th, we brought that for first read. So we're actually asking for your approval this evening. Yep.
I make a motion.
And we have not heard any questions since the last board meeting.
Okay. Yes, because all of this that we're talking about now, exhibits B through H have already been presented to us.
Correct. Yes.
I make a motion that we approve Board Policy 2000 of the 2000 series as presented.
Second. Everyone on the board say aye.
Any questions this
Or
evening?
Any
I have a
questions
question.
this evening?
Just for my personal notes, what is the title of the Board Policy 2000 series?
So this is the, hang on a second here. This is the program, educational services, resources, and related policies.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any other discussion, questions? Roll call vote, please.
All right. Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
All right.
Sufficient voting and the approval of that item A, approval of the board policy 2000 series. We'll now move to uninterruptible power supply purchase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder why I got funny looks on that last one. Ms. Pastana was looking at me like. So we have for you this evening recommendation for purchase of the uninterruptible power supply device that filters, regulates, and provides backup power in the case of a power failure from the utility. This allows a district-wide critical voice and data systems to maintain operations until a generator power is available. The existing equipment was purchased in 2013 and has reached end of useful life. It's being purchased off of REMC. And we do have Mr. Wissink here with us this evening. If there are any questions regarding the technical aspects of this particular purchase, he's happy to answer those questions.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the uninterruptible power supply purchase as presented in Exhibit C and presented to us at the last board meeting under new business.
All right, motion's been made by Mr. Weissman, seconded
support.
by Ms. Grzymkowski. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move for a roll call vote.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
All right.
6
Motion-
yeas, 0 nays, motion passes. All right, approval of the board policy 8000 series.
Yes, you have before you this evening the 8000 series, which is titled Operations. So much like Dr. Salah mentioned with the 2000 series, we looked at the 8000 series over 4 to 6 finance and operations committee meetings, ultimately landing on the set that you have before you. Was presented on November 7th, or I apologize, in October under new business. We are asking this evening that the board consider approving. We did not get any questions over the last 2 weeks since it was under new business.
All right, do I have a motion? Ms. Grzymkowski makes a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Ms. Cotter. All right, any other questions or comments? We've all seen this item before. Any other? Seeing none, we'll go ahead for a roll call vote.
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. All right, we'll now move to item D, BP5 asbestos abatement contingency approval.
So again,
Did we
on
do this one already? No.
So it was under new business last meeting.
Okay.
And ultimately, we ended up, as a result of work done this summer, spending an additional $25,782 on asbestos abatement. And so that's typically done on site. And so we're just asking, now that we're complete with that work, that the board consider approving an additional $25,000 for work that was done and approved through the emergency purchase piece.
So the
throughout
work's
summer.
done.
Work is already done.
So basically we're ratifying an action that's taken
Yes.
place. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
Also move the BP asbestos abatement. There's a tongue twister.
I'll
Especially
support
on a
that
Monday
motion.
night, and supported by Ms. Cotter. All right. Any other questions or comments regarding this matter? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. All right. Elite Detection K9 Pilot Program, Exhibit F.
Yes. So again, in October, the last meeting in October, we had this under new business, but this has been discussed in several board committees, including Finance and Operations and Executive Committee. The district would like to do a pilot program for the the current school year that we're in, utilizing safety and security dollars as provided by the state of Michigan and our categorical funding to fund a pilot program to be utilized in our high schools from now through the remainder of this school year. And again, from October through now, I have not had additional
Grant
comments.
programming.
Grant.
Yep. Okay. Glenn, the service dog, won't be part of this unit.
No, we actually have to approve this at the board level before we'll find out the name of our dog and handler.
All right, I just want to verify. Do I have a motion? Ms. Pastana makes the motion, supported by Ms. Grzymkowski. Any other questions or
I
comments?
just have a question.
Yeah.
So the pilot will be pretty much from now to the end of the school year, so, half a school year basically. And do we have an idea of when the start date will be, rollout and all of that?
So I have purposely put off we had a demonstration in the end of August. I have purposely put off elite detection until the board took action. So tomorrow, if this measure passes, I will follow up with elite detection. They do have a contract for us. I'm asking that the board allow me to sign said contract, and then we would work on logistics. And I know that in the background, we've already tried to set up a schedule, and we will have a communication that will go out to our community discussing the program. But we would probably start it as soon as we could.
We have a draft
Thank you.
communication ready to go,
Great.
and we also have a calendar with a rotating schedule. So that's
Excellent.
ready to go. We're just ready to
Thank you.
flip the switch.
Thank you for that question, Ms. Forrest. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call.
I am a yes. Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Lakeland High School and Milford High School ball field upgrades contract award.
So again, this was up in October under new business. We had discussions at the
That's right.
executive as well as Finance and Operations Committee regarding some necessary repairs and work being done on our softball and baseball fields at both campuses. We had a base bid as well as a bunch of alternates. We are asking the board to approve the base bid, which was really what we consider the required work that should be done either now or even in this spring, summer after the seasons are done, based on eligibility of when the work can be done. And so between now and last meeting that we had, I have not had additional questions or concerns. So we're asking the board to consider approval of the base bid of this work to be done in the upcoming year.
Okay. And what's that base bid amount? I know it's in our notes here, but just or something.
It's in I think it's I'm going to pull it up. Contingency would be 519.
519. Okay. 464 with the contingency. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve said ball fields.
And supported by Mr. Weissman. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
I am a yes. And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. We'll now move to touchpad athletic equipment purchase.
So we had discussed this briefly again at the October last committee meeting or board meeting. This was also brought through Finance and Operations, but as part of the athletic equipment, which is $175,000 per high school as part of the bond that was approved, we are asking that the board consider purchase of touchpads, which are used to verify timing for swimming and diving events, not only for our competitive teams that we have in the district, but also our outside vendors who use our pools for their own competitive space. I'm thinking about the Masters program, which is for seniors, as well as our Penguin program, which is a direct feeder to our high school programs. And so we're asking that the board approve this purchase, which is, again, 95% through bond and then a small portion through general fund.
Okay. We have a motion. Ms. Grzymkowski makes the motion, supported by Ms. Cotter. Any questions or comments for Jeffrey on this one? Seeing none, we'll move for a roll call vote.
Ms. Grzymkowski,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, we'll now move to the LHS boiler purchase.
So to highlight the unfinished business section tonight, we are asking the board to consider purchase of a boiler to replace one of the ones that is no longer serviceable. And again, this is part of the bond program, and we are asking that the board consider a boiler purchase. We typically run 2 boilers at any given point in the winter, and we usually carry 3 boilers for redundancy. And so this is to make sure that, you know, as we come into winter here, that we're keeping Lakeland High School warm. So we're asking the board to consider that purchase.
Winter is coming.
It's fast. And so we're asking the board to consider that this evening. I have not had any questions or concerns from the board since our last board meeting.
All right, let me get a motion and then see if there's any questions. Motion made by Ms. Forrest, supported by Mr. Weissman. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Ms. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. We'll now move to Section 6, new business, the 0100 bylaw, individual policy.
So with the 0100 bylaw, we are asking for consideration of approval at the 21st meeting. This is a first read. The bylaw policy deals specifically with definitions and appears within the board bylaws. For whatever reason, when we did our initial review of the bylaws, we did not include this definitions policy. There are several very important definitions that really apply meaning and context for use throughout all of the policies. So it is an important policy that we are bringing before you this evening and asking you to consider. This was shared in board notes. I did receive a question from Mr. Wiseman regarding the definition of treasurer. The way that it was defined in the policy made it appear as if the treasurer of the board is the actual functioning CFO of the district, which is not possible.
It's not.
Jeffrey is our CFO.
You got that right.
So I've made that change, and it is reflected in green in your updated policy with a strike through in red, the component that was removed. So we're asking the board consider approving this at the next Board of Education meeting. And if there are any questions, please let me know between now and then.
Okay, we'll now move to item B.
Item B is the Board Policy 4000 series. This was reviewed at the Executive Committee on 2 different occasions, and it is dealing. It's okay. So it's dealing primarily with matters that involve our support staff, and it is mostly human resources focused. So again, this is a first read. If there are any questions, please let us know between now and the next board meeting where we will ask for approval.
So that has gone through the executive committee and passed with consent from those members. So again, any questions, please inquire to Dr. Salah or the executive committee, myself, Ms. Forrest, or Mr. Weissman. All right, we'll now move to Board Policy 7000 series, which was marketing, I believe, committee, correct?
So the Board Policy 7000 series actually touched 3 different committees based upon the context of the policies in and of themselves. So the Finance and Operations Committee, the Teaching, Learning, and Technology Committee, as well as the Marketing and Communications Committee all had sections of the 7000 series based upon the context and their primary intention. All 3 of those committees have reviewed their their specific policies and have recommended that we bring this to the entire board for consideration. This is a first read. We would ask for the board to consider taking action at the November 21st Board of Education meeting.
So same comment. If one of those respective areas that you were not on the committee and have a question, please reach out to one of the committee members that served on marketing and communication or TLT or finance and operation or Dr. Salah. All right, we'll now move to
Mr. President?
Oh, Mr. Weissman.
Yes, we've spent a lot of time on these board policies, in fact, hundreds and hundreds of hours as it relates to the Board of Education, looking over these policies, having comments in the administration. I'm just wondering, with the board policies 4,000 and 7,000, where are we? Are these the last two policies or last basically three, because we have that individual policy of 0-100? Does this complete this process?
I think this is it.
This is it.
Yeah, these are these would be the
Certainly
last
feels
two,
like
the
it.
4,000s, the 7,000s, and then we have this individual policy that we're asking you to consider. But that should conclude our initial overview of all of the policies. But then we get into a cycle of, as there are changes in legislation or change in federal or state policy, that could cause us to need to change individual policies, and we would bring those to the respective committee that oversees that particular area and ask for consideration and feedback on those policies.
Thank you very much. I just want to make a note that I really appreciate the work of all of the entire board and our administration, because this is certainly the backbone of the operations of this district. We kind of talk about this quite often. It does take a lot of time, and I know that some of the things that we go through is pretty mundane, but it's important work. One of the primary purposes of the Board of Education is to create policies, and I really believe that this is important work and provides the tools for not only the Board of Education but our administration to operate the district in a fair and efficient and effective way. So
Yeah.
I just want to make that
Thank you.
that comment.
Great comment. Any other comments on the board policies? All right, seeing none, we'll now move to item D, which is bid pack 8 door and hardware replacements at Milford and Lakeland High School.
Yes, and so this is a first read this evening. Obviously, one of the most important things we've talked about as a board and committee is safety and security. So we have actually pulled ahead some door and hardware replacement work. We're asking the board to consider approving this at the November 21st board meeting, but essentially we would like doors and hardware replaced at both Lakeland and Milford High Schools. There are some doors that are in good shape and ultimately need the updated standard for hardware, but there's also doors that are aged and need to be replaced along with the hardware. So we're asking the board to take a look at this, but you can see that we had a bid process. Actually, the lowest bidder is a company that is in our co-op, and so we're happy that that was the case. This was actually a really tough vendor that I've been working on for about 18 to 24 months to join our co-op, because he is a leader in the Southeast Michigan space for carpentry, doors, and hardwares, and all the finishing work that's done on these bid programs. So we're really happy to have him in the program, and we're really happy that he chose to bid on this project for us. So
yeah, thank you for that overview. If there are no objections, I think this rises to a safety and security concern. I know it has been our tradition to typically have a first read and then approve on the second. There are some occasions that come up. I think we had an HR with furniture dealing with confidentiality of employee records. Certainly door and hardware replacements from a safety and security perspective, I think is of high concern. If there aren't any objections, I would offer an opportunity for a motion to be made and second and for us to approve this evening. Mr. Weissman.
Yes, I make a motion to move this from new business to unfinished business and make a motion that we approve tonight bid pack 8 door and hardware replacement at Milford and Lakeland High School.
Is there support? Ms. Forrest? All right. Any questions or
Yes, I
comments?
do have a couple questions. Number one, as it relates to this bid pack door and hardware replacement at Milford and Lakeland High School, what does that really mean? what will these new doors and the new hardware enable our students to be that much safer?
Yeah, and so since we've last had these doors and hardware replaced, which, again, it's been 20 years since we've done any substantial bond work, there is a thumb latch system that we've been using as a district standard that meets police and fire and safety codes throughout the state of Michigan that ultimately is a deterrent to, challenging situations that we might encounter. As we speak right now, I'm happy to report that as of this morning, all of our secondary buildings are now fully functional with night lock. And so the board made, a good investment in night lock a couple months ago, and we have since already installed all of those throughout our secondary buildings. So with this new thumb latch system on either a new door or replacing the hardware in the doors that exist, we will be up to date with our district standard as it relates to safety and security of these doors. And so this is ultimately replacing and/or replacing the hardware associated with said doors. And we're essentially pulling this program forward because in another month or so, we're going to ask you to approve Bid Pack 9, which will be the first phase of our high school programs. But this is to get ahead of the Bid Pack 9, where we can have, our safe and secure entrance and some of the main scope of, finishing off these classrooms with technology and flooring and things like that. So this is just something that the board asked us to consider. We moved forward. We appreciate our partners, our architect, as well as our construction manager, and working to get this bid program through. Right now, doors are anywhere from, 12 weeks to 24, even 36 weeks. So by having this approved this evening, we can just get ahead of the curve, if you will, and start this stuff most likely in the spring. But I am happy to know that the hardware piece could come in within a month to 6 weeks, because that's not as difficult as a door purchase right now. So we're just trying to get ahead of work that the board would ultimately approve for our high schools anyways. And this speaks to safety and security, which we've talked about as a real concern. And I appreciate Board President Carlson bringing this to a potential vote. I did run the numbers, and it's a little over $1 million with our 12% contingency. So the base bid was $914,910. The total award tonight, if we do so, will be $1,024,699. So I know that's not on this future direction because, again, we brought it under new business and not an unfinished business where we would have more detail for you.
So this is something that we certainly have had a lot of conversations about in finance and operations and exec, and I'm certainly safety and security is on the agenda of all of our subcommittees. So I believe everybody's talked about it. The other point that I think it's important to note, on an interim basis, we've installed the night locks, and that's on an interim basis to make certain that our buildings are safe and secure, but at this time do not meet the standards. With this bid pack, that will take care of the doors that might not be affected by Bid Pack 9, which encompasses a lot of other remodeling that's going on. Within Bid Pack 9, new hardware, new doors are already included, correct?
That is correct.
And this bid pack will bring our high schools up to that standard. In the interim, they will have the night locks. And this bid pack really reflects what's already in place at our elementary schools, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those questions. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. We'll now move to good and welfare. Any good and welfare? Ms. Grisomkowski.
I had the privilege to attend the resource night that was put on by our social workers. It was really fantastic to see the number of families. But what was really exciting to me was this whole room was full of winter clothing, hats, coats, boots, you name it, it was here, and candy. There was lots and lots of candy that night. But I just appreciate having resources available. We are in a resource-rich community. Between our libraries and our mental health professionals, our own Huron Valley Community Coalition and the Youth Assistance Program, our YMCA, our Rec and Ed, it was really fantastic to see all of the different organizations coming together and supporting our district, supporting our families. We talked a little bit brainstormed a little bit outside of strategic planning, and it was really exciting to see how we had some very similar ideas. So kudos to our social workers and to everyone who had a hand in and in organizing that event. Well done.
All right, thank you. Any other good and welfare? Ms. Pastana.
So I want to give congratulations to our own Mr. Isaac Perry. He has been nominated as Citizen of the Year in Huron Valley. And also to Mrs. Susie Rolando. She is she's the Milford Memories Volunteer of the Year. So it's nice to have our own people out there doing great things.
Ms. Forrest?
Yep, sure. I had the distinct honor and pleasure yesterday of attending the community sharing their new building in Highland, their ribbon cutting ceremony, and we got a tour of the facility, and there must have been, I don't know, 80 people present yesterday. So it was just a wonderful event, and kudos to Highland Township and to our the volunteers at Community Sharing, Dave Bell, everybody else, for creating such a fantastic building that serves not only our greater Huron Valley community, but directly serves our students. And I know Mr. Ben Docker is a liaison with Harbor High School, and, you know, they do such a service for our community. And winter coats and boots, I hear that there were a bunch collected at the Family Resource Night. I did ask what items they really needed, and it was, you know, the winter clothing, coats, boots, for all ages of kids, and also, of course, you know, their main source. They give a lot of foods to our families in need. So, you know, either donations of food or monetary donations for food and winter clothing for our students. So once again, I was just really blown away by the outpouring of our community that was there to support what's been done with this new building. And I, you know, if you haven't seen the facility, I say go over there and check it out. It's really beautiful. And one more thing.
Go ahead.
Just a shout out to our folks, our staff and community members working on our strategic plan. We're getting close to the end, and the dedication and diligence that everyone involved has been working on has been just fantastic. I've said this many times. I'm really excited, you know, to see the plan, and the board has a few weeks to look it over, and we'll be voting on it. But, you know, the kind of the cross-pollination and all the different committees is pretty prevalent. So, you know, all parts of the different committees are going to weave together just to, you know, move Huron Valley schools forward. So, you know, real shout out to those folks that work so hard on that.
Thank you. Mr. Weissman?
Yes, Mrs. Dodd's not here, and this is I'm going to try to fill her shoes. I know that if she was here, she'd be telling everybody about the Milford High School Theater Company presenting White Christmas, all right, as its annual fall musical. The production includes 90-plus cast and crew and staff for students from Milford High School and the IA, and their first performance will be on November 17th, which is a Thursday at 7:30. And then Friday at 7 o'clock, and then they'll have two performances on Saturday, November 19th at 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So I know I'm not Mrs. Dodd, but I'm sure that she'll give me an attaboy for announcing this.
All right, thank you. Okay, no other good and welfare. We'll take a motion to move into closed session for purposes of labor negotiations.
Let's move to closed session.
All right.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Cotter. And we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote.
All right, Ms. Forrest. Oops, sorry. Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Grismkowski.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes. All right, sufficient voting in the majority. We are moved to closed session.